Got traffic there. Blaster, just take it up to the departure end of the runway, then a left turn and a lowest downwind. Cessna over the threshold, coming up on the white dot, at or beyond the white dot, left turn first available. I got a high wind coming up on about a half-mile final, clear to land at or beyond. Traffic on the left face, you're following a Cessna down, low off your left. Square it up just a little bit, and then we're going to get you in. Start your descent, though. Start your descent on the base. Traffic on final, give me follow on base. Base traffic, start turning toward the numbers now. High wing coming up on quarter-mile final, take it all the way down to the green. Cessna taxiing on the green, expedite down to the next hard surface. Get me some speed, there you go, 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 go fast. This is going to be good. I got traffic on a mile final, you're following traffic ahead and to your right. High wing coming up on the threshold, take it all the way down to the green dot.
5 Charlie Sierra, 2 mile final.
A mile final, turn north, and we're going to just make you, we're going to bring you back around. Jet traffic's coming up on about a mile and a half final, runway 9er clear to land.
Okay, all right, let's listen up, guys. If you're on final for runway 9, I want you to offset to the left. I got a jet that's landing on runway 9. The jet's cleared to land runway 9 if you can make it. If not, just continue straight ahead. It looks like you're going around for the jet. That's fine, that's fine, that's fine.
Oh, we have one right in front of us, sir.
Dragger, let's see, what we got, a tricycle, put it down, tricycle, put it down, tail dragger, down to the green dot, then a left turn. Short final here, you cleared to land on 9, all the way to the white dot, go down to the white dot. Find somebody to follow out here. Canard, just come to the runway and I might have to just send you around. That'll be fine. And for the jet, you just want to stay in this pattern or you want to go back out for an instrument approach?
Stay in a pattern, Charlie Sierra.
All right, just stay with me here for a minute. And my tail dragger, let's see, over the numbers, go down to the green. And Canard's going to have to go around. Canard, go around. Canard, go around. Canard, go around. And my high wing here over the runway, keep it airborne. Keep it airborne. You do not descend. Do not descend. You got a fast guy behind you. Do not descend. There you go. Keep it airborne. Keep it airborne. As soon as the guy behind you gets slowed down, I'm going to put you down. So keep it airborne. The one that just passed the white dot, make a left turn on the hard surface. All right, my high wing tail dragger, you can put it down now. You can put it down now. And Charlie Sierra, let me get you about a mile off. Let's see, Charlie Sierra, I lost. There you are. Make a left-hand turn. I'll try to resequence you here on the downwinds. We'll see how it looks. Short final, you're clear to land runway 9 on the white dot. Clear to land on the white dot. There you go. And the tricycle left on the hard surface and follow the flagman. Welcome. Thanks for being part of the show. And let's see, just find somebody to follow out follow on the final. And as you get close to the runway, if it's not going to work, we're going to send you around and then try to resequence you. Now, who else got sent around that's not back on the downwind? The Canard?
Yeah, Canard.
All right, Canard, there's a Gulfstream up there that went around too. I just lost sight of him, but you're going to make kind of a left-hand turn and stay low. I think Charlie Sierra, what's your altitude?
3,200.
Okay, that'll be fine. Just maintain VFR. I don't know what else is up there above you. Probably most everybody's down here, so just make a left-hand turn. We'll try to get you back here.
Canard's got the jet in sight.
Okay, the RV, maybe an RV-10, whatever, here on final. Keep your speed up and go all the way down to the, aim for the green dot for me. Actually, keep your speed up. There's a guy behind you. Aim for the green dot, and I'm sure that's plenty of room for you to land on runway 9. You're clear to land on runway 9. Number 2, you're going to go down to the white dot. Follow the white dot. Actually, you know what? That's 1,500 feet. You're going to land at the white dot. The spacing looks adequate here. 2 guys on final. You're kind of tight there. Keep each other in sight, and you're going to aim for the white dot. If it's not going to work, we'll come up with a plan B. We might have to send you around. The second guy behind you out there in about a 2-mile final. Are you slow enough to be able to follow that guy in front of you? You need to go around.
Yeah, follow.
Well, I probably shouldn't ask that because I had about 5 guys answer me, so I should know better than that. After 35 years, you would think, right? All right, so let me see. The guy who's number 1, it's number 1. What kind of airplane is he? An RV type. All right, RV type. Keep it airborne for me. Keep it airborne. And I got a fast guy behind you. The number 2 guy over the trees there. Go ahead and put it down on the numbers. Put it down on the numbers. My first guy just coming up on the numbers at the over the grass at the numbers. I want you to keep it.
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Hello. Hello.
What about live viewers? Just run away, gone to get his airplane out. And welcome to the live stream for, certainly from here, from Wadswick, Plymouth, and Kitty somewhere. Kitty Hawk kind of area. Anyway, we also have Mark, who's here, and that's a pretty Mark's nice RV8 that
Mark is a Flying Club member who responded to our request for someone to fly in for live stream. So
yeah.
Mark is here, flying the flag for Fly Club members.
Absolutely. So I hope you're in your garden, enjoying your beer, tea, and everything else. I have to say thank you to Mark, obviously. Thank you, Mark, and to everybody else. But first of all, I have to say thank you to Sky Demon for sponsoring the live stream. And here is your top tip for the week.
Hi, I'm Tim from Skydemon. Welcome to this week's top tip.
When you have a route planned, you can use the Airfields tab to see the airfields that form your route and quickly bring up their information. You can also add another airfield to the Airfields tab. Let's bring up the information in what's here, go to it, and then use the pin button here at the top, pin to route. You'll now see that airfield is always in the Airfields tab for this route, even though it doesn't actually form your route. Therefore, when you're flying, you can quickly get access to it to see its weather, or frequencies, runways, or other documents.
For our full user manual, go to skydemon.aero and choose Help and Support.
Excellent.
I knew that once upon a time, then I forgot it. But now we know it again. And
I'm guessing that the Sky Demon user manual must be a pretty weighty document. If it is paper.
It's only a couple of pages, to be honest. And I'm kind of like, I'm Mr. I can't be asked to read a manual almost all the time, which would probably come as a surprise to most people. But the Sky Demon one's surprisingly readable and succinct. So yeah, and most of it's created by Hannah, I believe.
Which is why it's readable.
Which is why it's readable.
Yeah.
Maybe you should get her to write some stuff for us.
Or no,
too difficult. Right. Okay. Where are we? It's got to be weather time, hasn't it, Nick? So this is going to be a little bit complicated, people. So just bear with us because we've got to be pushing the limits of our.
A lot going on
here. So I think it was that.
Evening all.
There we go. Hello, Simon.
How I always like doing weather aerobatics, isn't it? That
it is.
Around all over the screen. Hope you're well. Looks lovely down at Ed's hangar.
Yes, again, we're making the most of summer.
Amazing. Looks really good. I'm just looking at the radar and east of you, a few showers. Some really big showers going up over the Eastern Midlands, going into Cambridge. Looks like, but even tornadoes in there as well. What about that?
Tornadoes, did you say?
Yeah, tornadoes in there. We've had a few actually. You know these storms that have come up over the last few weeks? Had a few reports of tornadoes. Do you want an amazing fact? I may have said this before, so stop me if I'm boring you. But Wales has more tornadoes per square mile than anywhere else in the world.
Is it because of your shirt?
I think it probably is. They just get scared and they just start over the mountains of Wales. So they are. There's one to amaze people with, isn't it? That's not in the Met PPL, is it? And it should be.
Is it true though?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. There's a fact. It's a fact.
Annabelle says, "Ooh, I love an interesting fact."
It's good, isn't it? It's good. Right. Okay. Should we do a bit of weather for the weekend?
Yeah. Let's see what happens when I click this. Oh, there you go.
Hey, that's good. Now, I am not going to fall into the trap of saying there will be no tornadoes this weekend because a few years back, remember that, Michael Fish? I'm not going to fall into that one, although we did make a few quid out of it on the after-dinner speaking circuit. Anyway, this is how things shape up for Friday. Bit of a change from what we've been used to. We're starting to see a change of air mass now. We've had air that's been coming in from the east or the southeast. Now we're going into more of a tropical maritime air mass as we go through this weekend. And tropics conjures up pictures of low cloud and some drizzle, and that's what we're going to see over western coasts tomorrow as this warm front moves eastwards. We see on the cloud seeding forecast there those yellow and orange colours, sort of indicating that we're seeing cloud bases of around 1,000 feet or less. And as that warm front moves eastwards, sort of northwest England, western Scotland, we'll see those lower cloud bases as well. However, central, eastern, southern parts of England look like they'll have a fair day. Just high or medium level cloud just starts thickening up in the west a little bit later on. But overall, for many of us away from those western areas, it looks like being a half decent sort of day. Now on Saturday, the warm front has passed eastwards. Probably some cloud around first thing. That gradually lifts. And you see here again on the cloud ceiling forecast that we're looking at probably around a 2,000 to 3,000 foot base for many. So not really anything to worry about. It's just southwest Scotland, parts of northwest England, parts of western Wales, mostly 1,000 to 2,000 feet. But elsewhere, again, it looks like being a fair day. Sea breeze is developing around the coast, but typical base is 3,000 to 4,000 feet. So a decent day once again, and feeling blooming warm actually. We could see 29 or 30 degrees across southern and southeast England. And then for Saturday, cold front passes through Ireland, gets into western Scotland, western parts of Wales by midday on Sunday. Bring some lower cloud with it, so bases around about 1,000 to 1,200 feet, tops on that probably around about 15,000 feet. But as it goes eastwards, it kind of decides that it's had enough and it just dies out. So I think virtually nothing actually across eastern parts of Scotland, eastern England, as the front arrives in the evening. May just be enough though to trigger 1 or 2 thunderous showers through parts of the Midlands and parts of southern England on Sunday evening. But I think so long as you're back early in those areas, you should be generally okay. So all in all, it's not a bad weekend, given that we've gone back into a more west to southwesterly flow, and as I say, more of a tropical maritime air mass. So we talk about air masses at Aviation Weather School. My next Aviation Weather School actually is going to be a classroom-based one here at Weather School HQ in Wombourne on Saturday the 16th of September. You can book your place now, spend the day with me talking weather. What could be better? I'll list them all out, shall I? But go to weatherschool.co.uk and book your place now. Okay, I'll leave you with that. Have a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you soon, guys. Bye for now.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much. Oh, just get a little bit of a... There you go. We're back.
It's like we know what we're doing.
Well, almost.
Almost.
I'm very pleased to say that Jim Bourke, a fantastic guest tonight, is sitting in the green room watching this. So really looking forward to hearing about his project later. It's one of those just astounding things that make me scratch my head and go, wow, how do people do stuff so well? Really. Anyway, there you go. So we're looking forward to that. But for now, it's probably time for Sarah to give us a bit of a rundown on the old Flyer Club and what's coming up for members, etc.
Yep, absolutely. So now is the perfect time to join the Flyer Club. We've got amazing weather and a perfect opportunity to make the most of our landing vouchers. So very kindly sponsored by Crawley's Flight Equipment. We've got 5 free landing vouchers for Flyer Club members this month. So you've got 8 days left to fly to Beverley, Clench Common, Donegal, Eggsford and Fishburn. And I'm just finalising next month's landing vouchers, but there'll be another great lot of destinations to go to. And the webinars we are running monthly have been really, really popular. So last week we had Stuart Houston talking to us about float plane flying. And the next one coming up is Tuesday, 18th of July, and it's going to be hosted by Andrew Bam, who is a push pilot in South Africa. So he's based in Johannesburg. He's going to talk about everything basically push flying, so license requirements. He's going to be talking about the skills that are necessary, which aircraft you can hire out there, and he might be giving us a little idea of tours that you can do around South Africa. So that's going to be a really good one. If you join today, you can watch all the previous webinars as well from the last couple of months. So we've had some really great topics. We've had webinars on air traffic control, UPRT, flying abroad, tips on buying and selling. So yeah, really, really great time to join the Flyer Club, just £5 a month. And there's a whole host of benefits, which I don't have time to list. But yeah, get involved.
And if you join today, we might even have enough money to buy Sarah a microphone.
Oh no, it's really quiet.
It's not quiet. You sound like you're in a box.
Yeah.
Oh really? Oh, I'm sorry. You should just do this next time, and I'll stand up.
It's not the volume. Anyway. Join now and we'll buy Sarah a microphone. What could be better than that? Right, time for some news. Dave, I think you're up first on the old news front. I don't think I've missed anything out.
No,
time for some news. Yep.
Definitely not. No, it's all good.
Give us some news then, Dave.
Okay, well, first up is it's a story basically triggered by a CA Skywise alert that came out at the beginning of the week, pointing out that the red arrows are giving lots of dates coming up. But basically, it's airshow time, so we need to be careful with our flight planning. So things like, for instance, the Glastonbury Festival is on all this week, and there's a NOTAM about that. Royal Ascot has been on for the past few days. Saturday, there's an Armed Forces Day at Falmouth, and Falmouth, that's one of the first days that the Red Arrows are going to be performing over this summer. So there's a whole string of dates coming up for the Red Arrows, plus a whole lot of air shows. So when you're flight planning, it's really important to check the NOTAM. There's an AIC sitting on the NATS AIS site where you can pick up all these things. Just be careful.
I have to say, when Ed and I went and took that picture, I thought they'd be more impressed with it, but they weren't amused, apparently. Joking.
Yes. Do not join Red Arrow's formations.
Although there was only 8 of them in that.
Okay.
That must have been one of them had kind of transgressed slightly, as it were. Right, Ed, you're up next.
Elixir news. So Elixir, that's the French aircraft company that makes a fantastic new trainer. They've unveiled a prototype for a low-carbon propulsion aircraft at Paris Air Show this week. It's powered by the TP90 turbine from French company Turbotech, and the aim is for it to run on sustainable aviation fuel, a jet biofuel at first, with hydrogen to follow once that supply matures. It's collaboration in the industry, but with Elixir working with Air Liquide, Safran, Dare, Turbotech under the French Civil Aviation Research Council. It's a program of theirs. A bit like Robin Aircraft, who we spoke to at Aero, said, we see the future. We don't necessarily see the future of aviation as being electric. We see it as the ability to burn alternative fuels, because that's more realistic. Elixir have basically gone the same way and see their answer as being biofuels and eventually liquid hydrogen. And they say sustainable aviation fuel that's already beginning to be distributed to airports worldwide. So that's their choice. So but fantastic looking project.
Didn't Turbotech get 13 million euros?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a good grant. There's an awful lot of people in that thing. Anyway, right, I don't want to spoil the next story. What is the next story? There you go. Sarah, it's yours.
Yes. So
see if I can just. Okay.
That's better.
Yep.
How's mine? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, that's all good.
Yeah, give it a go.
Lovely. Okay, so yeah, another bit of news coming out of the Paris Air Show this week. So a French company called Voltaire have announced their Casio 330 electric hybrid. And it's powered by cylinder Kawasaki Motors, a thermal motorcycle engine. It's expected to perform the first flight later this year, I believe. And it looks very interesting. It's got a glass cockpit, apparently with an Avidyne suite. And it's going to be followed up by a 6-seater in the future, and eventually a 10 or 12-seater, which will be interesting.
I've got to say, I'm always nervous of new aeroplanes that use new engines.
Yeah. Sarah, I'm just going to mute you for a second and see if that is
the odd noise.
Okay, can everybody hear it? Yeah, I think that seems to work, doesn't it? Dave, Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Yeah, it's all clear.
Okay, that's weird. Okay, right, we'll see what happens there. Yeah, I don't know. All of these projects, I think they're just grant hunters. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I know. It's and hopefully something will definitely come of it. But it's always a bigger challenge to certify a new airframe and a new engine at the same time. But interesting to see Kawasaki stepping into the market and going, because normally alternative engine manufacturers are kind of reluctant.
They might not know anything about it. Someone might have just got one out of a motorbike.
Do you reckon? Yeah.
Kawasaki are probably on the phone going, well, do you know anything about this?
That's
No.
We sold some motorbike engines to someone.
Yes. It's worth remembering that Volt Aero, the two main guys at Volt Aero, are both ex-Airbus, and they're situated quite close to Airbus headquarters. So it may be one of these projects that Airbus has put out So if it all goes wrong, they can deny all knowledge. But if it all goes well, then they can bring it back in-house.
That was us.
A cynic might suggest that whole aerospace valley in the southwest of France is a whole load of seed projects, so that Airbus are kind of watering with money and the French government are watering with money. Probably not expecting 90% of them to even terminate, but hopefully one or two of them will, and a winner in their hands.
Yeah.
But so I guess that's how it works. So anyway, we'll be moving our HQ to Aerospace Valley and building a Kawasaki twin or something. Right. Talking of expensive engines, Dave, I think you got the next story.
Yes. Yeah. This. If you're talking about Aerospace Valley, I'd love to say it was in England. This is unfortunately not, but it is a Rolls-Royce. It's a Rolls-Royce all-gas turbine. It's been developed to power hybrid electric flight. It's in other words, what they call a turbo generator system. It's being developed particularly for what they call the advanced air mobility market. That's the air taxi eVTOL thing, and also small regional airliners up to 19 seats. So, like a lot of people, Rolls-Royce is kind of thinking batteries are not going to cut it for electric aircraft in the near future. It's going to have to be some kind of range extender or some kind of hybrid to generate the electricity to make it worthwhile. So this is very much like, if you like, the Turbotech project, which is been produced in France. Anyway, this one will have a scalable power offerings between 500 kilowatts and 1200 kilowatts. That's quite a bunch of power. So
I know, to me, that sounds like a turbine that they could just hang on the wing and put a propeller on the front of it.
That's yes.
That's not a green. That's not very green looking. You've got to run the turbine to Oh, someone's starting up. You've got to run the turbine to drive the battery, to drive the motor, and then that looks really green. So, yeah. As Dave White says, Grant Hoovers is not an MP.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so the next story, there was a bit of a press release. I think it came out today or yesterday. I can't remember from the team at Wingley. The team at Wingley basically said if the CA go ahead with some of their rule changes, that they may well have to close in the UK. As you may or may not remember, the CA put out a consultation on cost sharing following the EASA rule change, which was actually pretty liberal in terms of its cost sharing opportunities, should we say. And the platforms took advantage of this. However, the CA clearly fell into something has to be done, maybe following the Sala incident, which had nothing to do with Wingley or cost sharing at all. It was a grey charter for which someone's now in prison, I believe. So there was a whole load of suggestions from the CA. So, you could only share in equal shares, whereas the EASA regulation doesn't have to be equal share. There were age limits and stuff like that. But the contentious one is the Civil Aviation Authority are expected to propose, I think it would be the fair way of saying it, a cost sharing thing where it can only take place if the flight was going to happen or was already planned anyway. Which obviously takes people like Wingley out of the market and a lot of the other cost sharing, because under the current rules, which are still in place, you can advertise it and you can do all sorts of things. So I think there's some potential unintended consequences. So if our visitor here suddenly got a flat tire and said, "Oh my God, I've got to leave my airplane here. Could you give me a lift back?" I'll happily share the cost. I'll go, "Well, I'm afraid not, because I wasn't planning to go there anyway," and that would make it illegal public transport. Which is kind of, the CA insists that that's not what they were trying to do, but unintended regulation is not always a good thing. So that I've chased the CA to see what's happening.
Nick Allen says, how are they going to prove planning? How far in advance?
Well, I guess it stops Wingley advertising it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it stops anybody advertising it. I mean, I think if you read a whole load of the comments, there's a whole load of people who go, "Oh, Wingley, it's really bad." And actually, what they really mean is they don't like the regulation. The regulation that came out, that was a pretty liberal regulation. Wingley actually go above and beyond the regulation, so they only do equal shares, and they're not doing great charter. Everything's on the website. You might not like what they do, but they're not keeping it a secret. You can go and see it. You can go, "That's wrong, that's right," and find out about it or have a view on it. Whereas clearly the kind of whole grey charter market that the CA are trying to get their head around or how they can stop it is not advertised on a website like Wingley. So I think people need to look beyond the obvious scapegoat and ask themselves whether it's the regulation they don't like, and if not, why not? But yeah, good question. If you did get a puncture, I'm planning to fly to your airfield later. I might cancel if you don't. So there you go. So that's that story. What have we got after Wingley? We got a Bagby story, which is Sarah. So I'm going to unmute you, Sarah, because I had you on mute because your microphone's making everything go weird.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yep.
Lovely. Okay, so so there's a fun competition called Top Nav, which is also sponsored by Police Flight Equipment, and it's a competition to practice visual navigation with the goal to improve your all aids technique. So to participate, it has to be a minimum crew of 2 people. There were 7 airfields involved this year, and 17 entrants took part. And this crew from Bagby came first. So this is Benson Greatix and Freddie Collier, and they flew a Cessna 172, and they scored 232 out of 240. So it's the first time they participated, and they won. So congratulations to Benson and Freddie. And it's going to run again next year. So you can get involved and apply to be part of Top Nav 2024.
Expecting some runway action soon.
Yeah, someone's just finished off. That's probably going to happen during the news story, which is about TechNam have announced they're postponing their P-Volt 2012. This is their twin-engine aircraft that they were developing to be electric powered and have batteries under the cabin. They've said after 3 years of intensive studies and looking at the whole life cycle of the aircraft, they've concluded it's just not the right time for P-Volt. They're going to keep doing the research, but have said that basically at the moment, TechNam believes that the goals of sustainability, operating costs, emissions, and all those things, they can only be achieved through extremely aggressive speculation on uncertain technology developments. And someone is taking off. Stand by. There we go. So TechNam stepping back from electric there, but also in the P2012 world, they've announced that they're adding the 375 horsepower Continental GTSIO 520 as an available option. So if you were planning to spend money on an electric P2012, that's not going to happen, but you can still burn avgas in a P2012, and you can have a different engine option if you want. And
a geared engine as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, next story is one of mine, and this is just a short story. There's something called an NPRM, Notice of Proposed Rulemaking. I've just given you a snippet here, but basically the FAA is saying that if you have a license with a foreign address, i.e. outside of the US, then you may, if the rule goes ahead, you'll need to find an agent with a US address so that the FAA can communicate with you via your agent, because basically I think they're getting bored of trying to write to everybody in every country of the world who's got an FAA license. So they want you to have a US address. So as most of us don't have a handy US address, you'll have to go and do that through an agent. So
can't they use email?
Oh, Dave.
Yeah. Sorry, it just seems obvious.
Well, they can use email, but they can't use email they can't yet use email to send you your license. And stuff
they can send you a WeTransfer and you can print it out yourself.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think printing pilot's licenses is a good idea.
It's a good idea.
Sure.
And I like the logic.
They tried that in India a few years ago. It didn't work well for them.
I'm sure there's let's not go there.
Well, no, it's true. They had some issues with licensing, didn't they?
They did.
Okay.
Some sad news. This has been circulating on the internet the last few hours, but unfortunately, former CLAA CEO Steve Slater suffered a medical incident last weekend at Bicester during the Flywheel event. He was attended by paramedics and has been taken to hospital in Oxford and remains unwell. The whole team at Flyer wish Steve the fastest possible recovery, and I'm sure all our viewers and readers do too.
Yeah,
absolutely. Get well soon. Dave.
Final story, and this is just a plug really for the content that's been put up on the Flyer website in the last week or so. There's a fantastic piece by one of our writers, Yayuri. Try saying that when you've had a couple of drinks. But by Yayuri about how much does a microlight PPL cost. The spoiler alert we put out for this is it costs a lot less than a full PPLA. It's still not cheap. No, flying's never cheap, but it's a lot less. And Yayuri's done a first-class job putting this together. A lot of research, talked to a lot of people. It's a great thing. It's a really nice piece. And we did have it checked by the BMAA before it went live, just in case there were any hidden, problems. And they loved it. So it's great. I would recommend going and reading it, especially if you're interested in getting the microlight license.
I think the answer to the PPLA one was like between 10 and 15 grand, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Closer to 15.
Closer to 15.
Yeah. There's a link in the comments.
Yeah. This is closer to half that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Which is still twice what I paid for a PPL. But then I'm old, isn't it? Long ago.
That was nearly 30 years ago.
It was, yeah. That's true.
Yeah. We mustn't go down that rabbit hole again. We've been down that.
True. Right. Just a little bit of that's new. So we're going to bring in Jim here. It's going to take a little bit of screen reorganizing. There you go.
Hello.
Hello,
Jim. Hey, I put my headphones on because I was having trouble hearing you, but everybody can hear me, right? Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Good.
Good. Fine.
Are we going to make Jim big?
You talk to Jim and I'll figure out how I can make him big at the same time.
Right. So Jim, welcome to the live stream for our viewers at home. I'm right in saying that you do a bit of display flying, you do a bit of test flying, and you're also you've got this crazy idea, well, not so crazy, to recreate a golden era racer, the Hall Bulldog, which is from 1931, 32.
Yeah, that's right. I think you should say it's crazy because it makes it more interesting for your show. Just say it's crazy.
Crazy.
It's crazy. You won't believe.
Way more interesting if I'm a crazy person, which I probably am. Yeah, just as you said, I do what you call display flying in the U.S. We call it air shows. Same thing. Yeah, I do quite a bit of that, and I'm a competition pilot as well. And I have this interest in at least this one golden age racer. Not all of them, but I like this one a lot.
And how did it all get started? Because clearly you know a lot of smart people in the world of doing stuff like this. But did you just one day see a photo, and Ian will flash some photos up? But did you just go, "I need one of these"?
Well, that's a great question. I grew up around airplanes. My father took me to air shows when I was very young because he sold aircraft, so I was around them from a young age. And always involved them. I was in the Air Force at the time that I found out about the Bulldog. I just was browsing some book, and I was an active modeler, also an RC modeler. So I was browsing some book, thinking about different airplanes I could build, and came upon the Hall Bulldog. I thought, man, that's really interesting. What a challenging, design that is. And I just really took to it. And I don't know if it's for everybody, but certainly for me, I think it's a beautiful airplane. And then I learned the story of it. It was just such an interesting story because it wasn't as successful as I think it could have been or should have been, or maybe I kind of wish it had been. I kind of felt a little sympathy for the people involved in the project in 1932, what a challenge they took on and everything. So it stuck with me, but it was such a big project. I had no idea that I would ever think about building a real one. I thought I'd build a model, but I didn't. I just kept doing other things and got busy with work and all those things. And then eventually found myself leaving the RC world, going into the world of real airplanes, what we would call full scale in the modeling groups that I was in. And after doing that and doing air shows and thinking, well, what can I do for a neat air show act? I returned to the Bulldog and realized, well, that would be a really neat idea. And probably no one else is ever going to be dumb enough to do it. So it's an opportunity. And then just started researching the airplane and found that a lot of other people thought it was a neat airplane too. And a lot of people didn't know about it. So I saw the opportunity to share information about it. And then the Hall Bulldog project was born from that. And we set up a website at hallbulldog.com and got to work.
So presumably it's not one of those projects where you can just write off to someone and say, could you send us some plans and some bits of wood and I can glue it together?
Right. Yeah, you can't order a Hall Bulldog kit. That would be nice, but no, you can't do that. It's a big airplane. It's small in a way, but it's big in a way. It's a monster engine on the front of that thing. Only one person sits inside of it. It's not much bigger than my Extra, but it's of course quite a bit heavier. And that was one of the challenges originally, was really not just not having plans, but not really being exactly sure what it looked like. We had a set of photos that I had seen a million times. Every time I saw a publication with the photos of this aircraft, it was always the same 3 or 4 photos. Maybe if I did some research, I could find 7 or 8 online. And it was kind of shrouded in all this mystery. And there were a lot of stories about it that now I've learned are completely untrue. But at the time, it had all this mystery to it. And I'm satisfied we've sort of settled a lot of those mysteries in the project that we took on. But yeah, you're right. We had absolutely no plans and no real idea of exactly what the internal structure was like. But then through a lot of work, and I have to credit Matt Lawler, who's our project historian for this, a lot of work on his part. We found now 60 or maybe 70 really good photos of the aircraft that many of them I had no idea existed and had never been collected together in one place. And we also found original drawings from the development of the aircraft. And it just over time went to every museum available and found as much information as we could. And now we've been able to put together pretty well how the aircraft was constructed. We have a really good idea. And we're still working on the engineering, though, because we, of course, want to make a really safe airplane. But that's how it started. Just a lot of research.
And the aeroplane itself doesn't exist, and it's not because a lot of the racers of that time were built and ended their lives in spectacular fiery crashes. Yes. But this was just one where the guy, they raced it a little bit, and then he kind of took it apart in frustration, and it was just lost, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's one of the things I think makes it an interesting story. It only lived for a few weeks. They built it in a real rush to get ready for the 1932 Thompson Trophy race, which is the most famous of all the classic air races. It's the one that Jimmy Doolittle won in the GB. And there's a great story of rivalry between this airplane and the GB and the Granville brothers who developed that. That's where GB comes from, of course, Granville brothers. There's a great rivalry there where Hall had left the company, was trying to outdo them, and had a great design and all the support he needed to be successful. So I think that's one of the things that's, that's very, very interesting about it right there, is that you have this amazing rivalry. But you're right. Some airplanes that Hall was involved in, sadly, people passed away in them. But in this airplane, that's not what happened. In this plane, he flew the race. He didn't actually own the airplane because Marion Guggenheim had put together the money for the airplane and took the airplane back. And Hall simply left it in Cleveland after the race and went on his own way. And the airplane was taken apart. The engine was returned to the original owner. And eventually the airplane just, deteriorated, I guess. I'm not sure exactly what happened to all the last pieces of it. Some of the pieces were picked up by a company that sold model airplanes and one of those pieces. But regardless, it only flew for a few weeks. And I think that's one of the interesting things about it. I don't think it was probably, I'll be frank, from listening to Bob Hall's son talk, I met with him and talked to him. I don't think it was probably the greatest flying airplane. It sounds like there were some issues with it, but that's normal. If you make an airplane very quickly and it's for this special purpose and you're not really thinking about flying it again, you're not worried about all the things like I would worry about, because I'm going to fly it hopefully for years. It wasn't maybe the safest and best airplane that was designed. It was just designed to go fast for one race. That's all it was for.
What engine did it have on it?
Well, it had the same exact engine that the GBR1 had on it that won the race. It's a 1340, that's the engine it had on it. It was souped up and had more horsepower than that engine, but it's basically the same engine it had, the radial engine.
And is that somewhere around 700 horsepower?
I'm not really sure. There's been some debate about that, but I would say, the 700 horsepower range. Yeah. Now, in Paul's case, it didn't produce that much. We have a lot of reasons to believe it didn't produce that much horsepower. It was producing quite a bit less horsepower for the race, and that's probably the big difference. It's why Hall came in 6th when he had flown the plane much faster earlier, and there's no aerodynamic reason why it would be so much slower on that day. It only, I think, averaged like 215 miles an hour on the day of the race. It should have been close to 270, pretty close to where the GB was, but it just wasn't able to do it on that day. So we think the horsepower was probably down to 400 or 350 on the day.
Yeah. So step forward to the modern day, and you decide to recreate this aeroplane. Mm-hmm. How do you get started with things like that? And who have you kind of reached out to partner in the project?
Well, that's a great question. I could never do this on my own. I mean, maybe not never, but I have only one life to live, and I don't want to spend it entirely, learning how to weld and all those things that I don't know how to do. I know how to do some things, but not those things. I have a great friend. His name is Tony Horvath, and I live in Oregon in the USA. and he's also in Oregon. We've come to know each other through several projects. He's a talented builder, not really a mechanic, a builder of aircraft. It's one of the few people who makes a living doing that. So he knows all about this stuff. And I'm friends with Steve Wolf, who's also well known in the U.S. for a lot of his work. And I move in circles where there's a lot of people like that to talk to. But Tony was the first one I thought of, because we'd always want to do a project like this together. He was around when the GB-R1, that there's a guy named Delmar Benjamin flew. It's a famous replica of the GB, flew in a lot of air shows in Europe and the US. And he was around for that build. Steve will put that together. So knowing those two people, that's kind of where I started. And after talking with Tony a little bit, we kind of came up with a rough plan. But when we started, we thought we knew a lot more than we did. And that's been the big pause, the stall that's kind of happened since we started. Was after I started getting more photos and looking at more of the drawings I had, we realized pretty quickly that the drawings that historically have been associated with the Bulldog do not match at all the way they match somewhat. They don't match enough the way it actually looks. And if you start analyzing the photos and put them into 3D and kind of reverse engineer what the two-dimensional shapes are, you realize the drawings that came in that were developed in that period just don't really match. There are many drawings in magazines and model airplane companies and even books on the subjects of air racing. They just didn't match. So we had to start over. And that's when I met with Jim Jenkins, who had a project he'd been working on for some time. I bought that project from him. I bought it from a museum that Jim had that took that project over, and met with Jim, and he was very helpful with all the information he had gathered. A lot of it was going back to the 30s. So we got some information from him. And then Matt Lawler, we met through Jim, I think, and he gave us a lot of information by reaching out to everybody who's ever known anything about the airplane. So that's been the biggest part of this process, really, is just collecting all that information and then putting it all together into a website, and then reaching out to Mirko Pecorari, who's a friend as well. And I've known him through several projects as well. He's an Italian designer. He's very good with 3D and 2D shapes. He designs aircraft, and aesthetically beautiful aircraft from this person. So I gave him all the material and said, can you reverse engineer what the structure of the airplane must have been? And we've got that done now. And now it's going to Kevin Kimball, who's another friend. I'm not trying to name drop, just trying to explain. But this is another friend who does structures, and he's working through all the structural engineering. And when that's done, we can go back to building. We did start building a little bit, but we put a stop to it because we weren't making an accurate Bulldog. I want to say one thing real quick. Also, we do have original fabric from the original airplane, so we can't say it doesn't exist in some form. We have the original aircraft will be part of this project. So to me, it's a restoration, even if we only have one piece. It's not exactly a new build. It's sort of the spirit of the original is in there, I think.
Am I right in thinking that someone, a museum, presented you with a box with the piece of fabric, and was there one other component or something in there?
Yeah, we can't really verify that component being part of the original Bulldog. All we know is that it was in a box in a museum in New England, which right next to where the Bulldog was made, in a box labeled Hall Bulldog, and it may be a part from the original airplane. That's all we know. Of course, we believe it must be. We like to think it is, but we don't really know. The fabric, we feel really confident. It's probably from the original airplane. And if that isn't true, we do have a potential access to another swath of fabric certainly from the original airplane. So regardless of how this goes together, we're going to have some pieces, something of the original airplane. And we're still looking. We're still hopeful that we'll come across some pieces from the original airplane. We know that people scavenged it from the airport, and they may be handed down to somebody. So we just keep hoping that somebody will turn up and say, hey, I got the rudder pedals or some piece from the airplane. We'll see.
Yeah, you mentioned the I think some quite big parts, the cowling and I think wheel pants and things like that, got picked up by this model aircraft shop who had it for ages, and then when the war started, they donated it for scrap, didn't they?
Yeah, I suppose that they went into bullets or bombs or something. Who really knows? Or they made something out of it. Maybe canteens. I don't know. But somehow those pieces went to the war effort, and they're lost because of that. But it's still an interesting part of the story, I think.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
definitely.
I've got a question. How important is it? How much effort are you putting in to make it a completely faithful replica from the interior as well? Or you kind of, if you get something that looks right and is structurally sound, and will you be happy with that, or do you need it to be as close as you can possibly get it, even if it was not great?
That's a great question. We did have several meetings about that to decide what concessions we would have to make, because the GB replica that flew, and anyone who would make a GB replica would make concessions. And I think it's fair that if Bob Hall were sitting next to me right now, he would say, "Now wait a minute, let's use what's available today." So, for example, brakes. We're not going to use we're not going to even think about using 1932 technology for something like that. The original plane had a skid with a small wheel on it. We're going to have a tail wheel. Okay, so there's things you just have to do because you want to have an airplane that's going to be able to survive off of a cement runway. You have to do those things. Then you get the things that are a little more sensitive about changing, because we do want to make an aircraft that's reflective of the original airplane. It's important to me. It's important to all of us that it isn't seen as some stretched out version of the airplane that looks like a Cessna, but has the right color scheme. That's not what we're going for. We're going for the original shape. So there are some areas where we're not going to concede on at all. It has to be correct. But we have decided recently that we will not use the original engine. We're going to use a 985, which is a smaller engine. It's a much lighter engine. It saves several hundred pounds on the nose of the airplane. And that allows us to bring the airplane in lighter. And the biggest reason for that is because with the airplane light enough, we can fly it closer during air shows. If we get the airplane too heavy, the laws in the US require us to be farther away. And that's not something I want. I want to be able to be next to the crowd, the same way I fly my other airplanes in air shows. So we made some decisions along those lines, but that, it's going to be very, very close to the original in every way we can. We may have, I don't need a modern panel. A period panel is fine. And I don't need a ton of differences. But another thing is that they had 200 some gallons of fuel. We don't need, that's because it was going to do cross country races as well. That's insane. I don't want to be in the airplane that long, so we'll have a smaller fuel tank. We'll make some concessions like that, but it's going to be the real airplane otherwise.
Yeah. And I know Mirko's been doing a lot of work in terms of projecting like taking the profiles of the airplane from old photos. And I think did you discover somewhere along that, like your wing shape, as you originally planned it, that actually you discovered that it was a slightly different shape and things like that?
Yes, we have, as I said, we have some period drawings. We have some that we think came from the floor of the factory where they made it, the hangar where they built it, handed down. And unfortunately, there's a little bit of warping to those. Probably they've been scanned in, and then we have reproductions. So we don't have the actual original drawing, and probably they just sketched some lines on the floor, and it didn't come out quite exactly the same as what they had in their heads. So for that reason, we started with the original wing for the original plan form for the wing that we understood was correct. But after we built all the ribs, realized, okay, that's when we realized, oh wait, this might not be correct. And since then, we just haven't done any building to speak of. But now we'll go back and make new nose ribs so it will match the original plan form, which actually worked out okay because it gives us a few more square feet of wing area, and that's not such a bad thing in this airplane. So we're actually glad to find out we had it wrong.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kevin, and this is one section of his, because he's pretty much got the whole airplane on kind of cam now, and I was trying to find a video because I've seen some stuff online,
right,
where he's actually you can kind of move all the controls, and this is replica building but super high tech, isn't it? It's
the second one will be a lot easier to build than the first one.
So you think it'll be going into production? And if so, how much do you think they'll get?
I don't think we'll do another one. If someone really wants one, I suppose we'd talk about it, but I can't imagine that happening. But no, it's the only way to build airplanes these days. And if you just look at the gull wing and you imagine the ailerons, the very, very thin profile airfoil, and the linkages have to pass through that down the gull where the pilot sits, through the wing tanks and all the hinging for the gear. You have to have, you don't have to. They did it without that, but it's very nice to have CAD, and we'd like to get parts machined and not have someone make them by hand, and that requires CAD. We just want to make sure everything fits together and it can fly. And I'll also offer a concession that we made is the wing structure is different because the original wing could twist, and there was aileron reversal that showed up during one of the test flights, and they fought that quite a bit. They had a differential to the ailerons to fight that, and we don't really want to have wings that feel like they're going to be twisting when I'm flying. So they're a little stiffer than the original aircraft as well. Just little things like that throughout to make sure it's going to fly well, and that just has to happen in CAD these days. You wouldn't do it by hand.
Yeah. Question from one of our viewers. Paul Fraser-Benison says, do you have to wait for Kevin Kimball to finish Kermit's Vega first?
Yeah, I actually went down and saw that Vega and met with Kevin. It's just amazing. I totally support that project. He is very busy with it, and he's not just doing all the CAD work. He's also doing the building, and man, it's incredible. I want to see that thing. So yeah, of course, Kevin has a schedule. We all do. Tony has a schedule. I have a schedule. It's just we have to get it all together. But Kevin's our guy. He's the one who needs to do this because he did the GBZ replica, which was also a Bob Hall design, and he knows the most about these kinds of things. We can listen to Kevin talk for hours. You should have him on your show because he's amazing to listen to. So we want him to do it. He's the right guy for it. I feel safe flying an airplane if Kevin does it. So yeah, we're waiting a little bit with him, but that's okay. It's just part of the project. When we first started, we said we'll do it in a year just to be funny. And Kevin was like, "Well, you're crazy." Yeah, we know. It's just we started in we were like a year away from the 100-year anniversary or 90-year anniversary, I guess. But now we're looking at the 100-year anniversary in 2032. And I mean, I'm not saying we're going to take that long, but if it does take that long, then that's just the way it is. No one can set a schedule because no one else is paying for it, and no one else is going to be putting their life on the line in it. That's we have to be safe and careful and make sure it makes sense for us. So it's just going to take as long as it takes.
Yeah. Not to be too rude, when you say no one else is paying for it, is this not a sort of crowdfunding historical thing? Is this
No, I haven't done anything like that. And as a personality, I tend not to do those kinds of things because I don't know what direction I'll take. And I don't want to have to explain. So I'm funding this myself. It's just a pleasure for me to do it.
Yeah. And you mentioned there's already a fuselage for the aeroplane, I think.
We have, that's not, I would say no is the easiest answer to give. Jim Jenkins started the project in the 90s and stayed with it for a long time, but just didn't get it finished. We did buy that fuselage, the truss and the landing gear design they came up with, and the wheels and all the plans that he had made for it. But that fuselage does not match unfortunately does not match the drawings that we have now. It just isn't close enough that we can't use it. So we aren't going to be able to use that. I'm not sure what we're going to do with that. It's a big letdown, but it is just not going to be correct. So we can't use it.
Yeah. It's that Cessna again.
So I'm right in thinking, a couple of photos that we've got here, this is Mirko's latest rendering of the aeroplane and the profile.
That's right.
Yeah. And that is, it's fair to say you don't have much view out the front.
No, I'm used to that. I've flown a lot of planes like that. It's fine with me. If you can see the runway, you just cover it back up again. It works fine.
And watching some of your videos, there's a big fin versus little fin debate, isn't there? Because
Yes.
it started off. Did it start off with a little fin, and then grew a big fin? And where are you at with that?
Right. The original design was I think the most beautiful, and it was the smallest of the fins when they first started. It looks like that one there. It is the prettiest, and putting an eyeball on that, to me, that looks like it's probably enough. But then you have the destabilizing areas of the gear legs and the gull. Some of that is ahead of the CG. Maybe that's why they had some trouble with that tail. They did decide pretty quickly to start adding to it, and they had a series of I can't remember now. I'm embarrassed I don't remember, but 4 or 5 different tails they went through before they ended up with the ridiculous tail that they raced with. And it's pretty clear that that's the ridiculous tail. The ridiculous tail was made to try and get the project paid for. They had a contract to build this. It had to be built by a certain day. And the person who was funding the contract had their boyfriend set up to be the pilot. And if the pilot rejected it, they wouldn't get paid. And the pilot just said, I don't think this is a good airplane. It wouldn't fly it. So he found it unstable. So they, I think, basically said, okay, fine. Here's a tail for you that you cannot say, this is a very stable airplane now, isn't it? And he flew it and I guess agreed. So they got the project paid for. They got paid for their work. I don't think it's a very beautiful tail, but it's the one we'll probably start with because we know it's safe. And we haven't really decided which one to do. It's kind of hard to get away from the tail because it's the one that they raced in. And a lot of people still find it to be beautiful. I mean, it's still a beautiful airplane, but it's hard to say that the original tail isn't better. I think it's just a much more pleasant shape. We'll see.
Everything looks pretty well proportioned on that. In a completely crazy way.
I think I prefer the ridiculous tail, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I like it all. So whatever we end up with, we'll end up with. But it's pretty easy to make it so we can swap out the tails. And I'm more conservative of a pilot than I probably look like. I actually try not to, risk my life every time I fly. So I think starting with the big tail and moving down to the small tail in stages is the safest way to go.
So you display at the moment. Obviously, your plan is to display the Bulldog. So I'm sure one day we'll see you fly the Oshkosh, because that definitely seems like only an Oshkosh kind of aeroplane. What do you display at the moment?
I have an extra 330 SC, which is the best, top of the line single seat aircraft that Extra makes. It's a real great airplane to fly. I also have just recently, I have what's called an MX aircraft MXS, which is it's really the best aerobatic airplane you can buy. It's lighter and more powerful than the Extra. I just picked it up and started flying it a few months ago, and haven't done any air shows or displays with it yet. I will probably be flying that at the U.S. National Aerobatic Championships in September. I may choose to fly the Extra because it takes time to get used to a new airplane, and I want to perform my best. So haven't decided yet, but if I do fly it in public for the first time, that'll be where it happens.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Harking back to the tail again. The tail, ridiculous tail, does look very large, but the rest of the empennage looks almost too small.
Yeah. I mean, planes that are designed to go fast don't need the same tail shape. The planes are designed to go slow. I don't think that, but I will say, I'm not sure that I'm not sure that Bob put a ton of effort into the decision there. I think he had already flown the Z and basically copied what he had with the Z for the most part and made it a gull wing. And I think, you could probably argue over whether there's enough or design it differently nowadays, but I think it's probably enough. We'll just have to, we've already done, I have to say, one of the things that started this, I forgot to mention, is I made a flight simulator called Real Flight for RC model airplanes for many years. And we put the Hall Bulldog in that simulator. And we argued a lot over it before we put that in there about what it was going to take to get the fly well. And it didn't need anything. It flew great right off the bat. There's a little bit of work on the fuselage. The center pressure was a little funny. But the wing areas and the stabilizers worked out just fine. And the plane was stable and flew really, really well. So I don't think this is as weird of an airplane as it looks. It's just to me, it's like kind of like a Taylorcraft. It's just a big fat Taylorcraft. It's still just got the proportions of a lot of other airplanes. A clipped wing Taylorcraft or clipped wing Cub, you take it and you put a big fat fuselage on it, and it does look a lot like it in terms of areas. So I'm not saying it's like this, but it kind of is. If you just look at the shape of it, the areas, it all works out about the same. So it's probably going to be stable pretty well.
I have a clip wing Cub. So if you do need a pilot, Jim,
yeah.
I won't be volunteering.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's my joke. I always say to Tony, what are you he's making, trying to build an airplane. I'm like, it's just a Taylorcraft. I used to have one of those. Like, it's just like the other thing. It's like, no big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so obviously people, if they want to follow along what's going on, they can follow, they can check out the website at hallbulldog.com. You've also got a Facebook group, haven't you, as well? I think if you search on Facebook for Hall Bulldog, you'll be able to find that and join in and watch the progress reports. So, I think we wish you well. We've got a segment called Fancy Hangar, and the Bulldog project inspires that. We'll be looking at aeroplanes we want to recreate. And the viewers normally decide who the winners are. Someone called it early tonight and they said, Fancy Hangar, Jim wins. Is this too early?
To be fair, it's too early. But yes. I look forward to victory at some point, yes.
Yeah. So when are you hoping to take your first airshow booking then, 2032?
I have all these things I want to say about the progress of it and when it will be done. And sometimes I like to do that because it's motivating to everybody who's working on it. But I think in the situation we're in right now, we just have to be patient, and I'll just stay quiet until we're done. When I'm done, everyone will know.
It's the typical, you use the typical home builder's answer. You go, it'll be done on Thursday.
Yeah, that's right.
Are you going to 3-point the first landing in it, or are you going to wheel it on?
I think that looks like a wheeler
airplane.
I love that question. I love it. I think I might. I don't know. Let's see how much room there is for the prop. I guess I don't know, but yeah, probably wheel land that thing, right? I think you'd have to probably. Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. Well, the empennage looks too small to 3-point it anyway. It looks like it'll run out of effectiveness. So.
Yeah, it might. Yeah, that's a good point. You might not be able to stall it, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's just going to be a really wide runway. It might not matter. I might go to a salt flat in the desert somewhere.
just sit there in the attitude, and you go, "Well, I've got all day."
Yeah. There's no rush. Yeah.
You must have some pretty big fields in America.
Yeah.
Just like perfectly grass. That's what you need.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll find the best opportunity I have to be safe.
There we go. Mike Roberts has got the last question. What do you reckon the approach speed might be?
It probably won't be that crazy. The stall speed of an aircraft goes up with the square root of the wing loading. So even a high wing loading airplane doesn't stall that much differently. It's it's a surprising thing about airplanes, but it is going to have a very high wing loading. It'll be same wing area as my extra, pretty close, but 800 pounds heavier or something like that. So it's going to be a high wing loading, but the stall speed won't be too different. I would think approaching it in the 100 knot range is probably about right. That's what I expect to do. And I'm used to that. That's a comfortable speed.
Very good. Very good.
Well, we look forward to you coming back and telling us what it was like on the first flight. And,
I'll do it for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Great.
Well, no,
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jim, and best of luck with the project. And it's perfect time to go to
Fancy Hangar. I just need to find the little video.
Find the video. Jim, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
You're still. Oh no, there we go.
There you go.
Yeah, lots of messages. Good luck, Jim. Good luck, Jim. Best of luck, Jim. I think that is an amazing project, and home building regular airplanes is one thing. Building a project like that is just a whole nother level.
A whole nother level of not crazy, but
intense.
Intense, yeah.
Yeah. But fantastic. So, Fancy Hangar, as Jim has been telling us about his amazing project to recreate the Hall Bulldog, or maybe even restore, because you've got the little bit of fabric. That got us thinking, hey, what aeroplanes would we bring back from extinction? So who's first?
Don't know, Ed. You're driving this bit.
Let's go with Dave.
Okay. Well, I've chosen a short Sion Senior.
Oh, yes.
Which is a 4-engine float plane built by Short Brothers, obviously. It was built to compete with things like the de Havilland Dragon and Dragon Rapide. Unfortunately, it didn't have the success of those aircraft. It's 4-engine, 9 passengers. Basically it didn't survive going anywhere really. But I just thought it looked very nice. There is actually one under construction. I found. Yes, there is some mad people. They're called the Medway Aircraft Preservation Society. This is in Kent. They're men of Kent. And because Short Brothers obviously originally started in Kent, in Rochester, and so this is they are trying to recreate it. The last update I've got is dated 2013, so it may not be moving at the pace of Jim Bourke's project, but good luck to them.
That's fantastic. Do you know what engines is it 4 Pobjoy engines or something like that?
4 Pobjoy engines, yes, producing around about 90 horsepower each, so 7-cylinder radials. So theoretically, that's 360 horsepower for 9 passengers.
4 lots of unreliability based on my experience of people I've known with Pobjoys.
And not a huge amount of power for a 9-passenger aircraft.
No, but what a fun aeroplane. That looks brilliant.
Yes.
Ian, what did you go for?
Well, it was a bit of a weird brief, to be honest, and I normally Ed comes up with a brief after he's thought of the winner. So it took me a while to find an aircraft to comply with the rules where there wasn't actually an example. And I found a couple that I really thought, oh, they look really good. And then you find there's one in a museum somewhere or somewhere. You go, man. So I ended up with something called a Westland Whirlwind, which to be honest, I'd never heard of before.
Wow.
So it was the first twin-engine, single-seat, twin-cannon fighter during the war. Its contemporaries were Spitfires and Hurricanes. Apparently, it performed really well. Only 114 were built because they were mucking around with the engines a fair amount, apparently. And I mean, it doesn't look particularly beautiful, but
I don't know.
It was quite successful.
Those cowlings are quite something. What engine is it?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I can tell you, but I can't remember.
Yeah, okay. But it's not as pretty.
It wasn't anything that
it
wasn't a Merlin.
I'm guessing, yeah. If they put a Merlin in it, it would have been like a fantastic mini Mosquito or something. But they probably used some oddball engine that overheated and caught fire.
They did, yeah. 114 built, and it got cancelled in 1943.
Yes.
Yeah, but there aren't any. There aren't any more.
I like that.
And there's not.
No, and that's missing in action. I think that would be a fair return. I think so.
Yeah.
Sarah, what have you gone for?
Hang
We're
on,
gonna have to unmute you.
We need to unmute you, Sarah. Okay, you're unmuted.
Yay, back in the room. Okay, so I've gone for this little thing, which it has made an appearance on Fantasy Hangar before. So I like helicopters and I love Cessna. So I feel like Cessna need another chance at the Sky Hook, it's called. So yeah, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see Cessna create something rotary that's as successful as it has been with the 172s and the 182s. So that's mine.
That helicopter's got, and I think it was relatively successful, but Cessna just decided they didn't want to be in the helicopter business, and I think they bought them all back or scrapped them, and there's I don't think there might be one in a museum, but I think that might be unlikely. But I think there's an interesting fact relating to Frank Robinson, I think, on this, isn't there?
He worked on it.
Yeah.
It's one of his early projects.
Yeah.
Cessna also bought a whole bunch of Skycaptors back and paid.
We did.
The company whose name I can't remember.
To recycle
them into.
Yeah.
I don't know what, aluminium cans or something.
Yeah. That's not just a.
There you go. Sarah's gone again.
Sarah's okay.
I quite like the nose on that. I think that's kind of like.
It's definitely different.
Yeah.
Definitely different.
That's a Jaguar F-Pace nose.
Jaguar F-Pace nose.
I knew it was something like that.
Harsh. Annabelle C is like straight in there. Sarah loses.
Oh no.
Historically, it's a fantastic choice. So
yeah.
So me, what have we got? Someone said here. No. Oh, yes. Another strong contender. Ed's got to lift your game tonight. I think I might have lifted my game enough here, though I am quite liking Dave's short sight on. I picked this, the TK4.
Oh
no, that's a terrible choice. I picked this. So this is a model because mine doesn't exist. But this was a real product at one time. It's the TK4 Racer, which was built by de Havilland students at the Stag Lane Aerodrome H quarters in 1937. They had 140 horsepower Gypsy Major 2 engine, and they said, "Hey, we'll make the tiniest airframe we can put on that Gypsy engine." It had a VP prop, slots and flaps, and was first flown in July 1937. It came 9th in the 1937 King's Cup Air Race. Capable of 200, race speed was 230 miles an hour. And
out of 9, or
I think that's harsh. I must check to see what other things beat it. I presume Mugels and the like. But I just think that's like a retractable Mugel. That just looks fantastic. So
well,
I really like it. Sadly, the real aeroplane crashed in October 1937. So many of these things. They were attempting a speed record, and I don't know what happened, but the aeroplane was lost.
You can tell it was made by the students, though.
That's harsh. I think that the students knew what they were doing. Anyway, as Mike says, Ed wins only because I love the Mugel. Bloody hell, Ed has done it again. What? Oh, Dave, stand up and take a bow. Dave wins again. Ian wins. There's a lot of comments coming in. Ed's pilot looks unwell. I think he's not real. So Dave's is most interesting. Ed wins. Dave wins. There was Adrian had an interesting take on it because he said, hang on. There we go. Ian could shoot Dave down, so I guess he moves into the lead. Apparently, on your twin, Ian, it was Rolls-Royce Peregrine engines.
That was the one.
Yeah, they were not very reliable.
No.
So
it did delay the actual. I remember I did read up on it. I just forgotten the name.
Yeah.
But it did delay the whole production thing.
Yeah.
Which is why there was so few built.
Dave White, his choice is the Armstrong with AW52 Flying Wing. That is a completely amazing thing. A few people are going to have to Google for that. Andrew Kennedy said, I'll take that mad wooden 4-engined airliner built by de Havilland. That was the Albatross, which was a previous winner of Fancy Hangar for long lost types. But that is beautiful.
I thought you meant the Heron or something.
No, that is not beautiful.
No, it's not.
No.
I agree.
What else have we got? There's Dave wins. Ian wins. Western Whirlwind. Ian wins so far. Ed's won again. I don't know. There's What we can say, I think, is
Sarah's
Sarah's
didn't-
Cessna helicopter. No one wants that back.
Let's just fluff that up again.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's like a little anteater. I like it.
Yeah, Stuart Russo. Sarah's looks like a bit like Deputy Dog with that nose.
You know what that does look like? That looks, isn't it? Wasn't there like a Thunderbird 4 or something? Wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. But what was that? Was that a submarine? I mean, that's not necessarily a good comparison. Was it a submarine? Thunderbird 4.
I think so, but it's got the nose of a Thunderbird. That's
Yes, it is. It's very
that's
much
where it
like
was
that.
inspired from. Yeah.
Nick Allen says it's got a sweet cartoon character nose.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go. So, Annabelle's like, my eyes. My
All right, Annabelle, you get it. You don't like it.
yeah, it's one again. There we go. Right. Okay. Well, I don't think I can completely take a win. I think there's love for all the designs there. So except
Sarah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay.
It's like, yes, it's the Thunderbird, the yellow submarine.
Yeah, it did have that nose. I'm sure it
That's
did.
it. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Dave, are there any events going on?
Just a few. It's a very busy weekend again. Friday to Sunday, there's the Great Draycott Flying. Friday to the 2nd of July, there's something called the Round Britain Microlight Adventure going on. Saturday, a summer flying at Easter Airfield. Also on Saturday, a barbecue and flying at Dorset Gliding Club near Wareham. Saturday and Sunday, Vintage Aircraft Club flying at Brighton. That's going to be a really good event. Saturday and Sunday also, the Solace Beach flying, and the weather looks reasonable for that. Sunday, a flying at Fife. That's it.
Fife Glenrothes.
Yep.
Flyer Airfield of the Year back in the early 90s.
Wow.
What, Fife?
Yeah, Fife.
Yep.
Fife is Glenrothes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Good. Right. In that case, I think we're done. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you very much, team. Thank you very much, Mark. Hope you...
I'll live you.
Goodbye there.
Mark's waving goodbye.
Mark's going to jump in that, and I think the Bambi, is it Bambi?
The Bambi's back. Yeah.
Bambi's back. So good. Right. Thank you very much, everyone. See you on Wednesday, I guess.
Yeah, Wednesday.
If you
for
remember.
Livestream Extra.
Thursday, if you're not.
Fantastic.
But you would be, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Clearly.
Enjoy the weather and fly safe.
Yep. Have a good one.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
There we go.